Hi guys, you're watching Total Carp Fishing TV, and today we're taking a look at some of the tidy booms from Gemini Carp Tackle. Now specifically today we're looking at the tidy booms for 360 rigs, and what this basically consists of is one of their fused fluorocarbon booms, and fluorocarbon's a perfect boom material. It's very robust and it's pretty much invisible in the water. Now what Gemini are famous for is these little fused loops, and they create these on the leaders, on tidy stems, and also these tidy booms for your actual rig sections. So that fused loop is not only really neat, but it's also super strong, retaining pretty much all of the strength from that fluorocarbon. Now the 360 version has a loop at one end which you attach to your lead setup, and then on the other end you've got a ring swivel, a size 11 ring swivel, which is fused tight onto that fluorocarbon. So as you can see, there's no movement in there. That's really neat, and you've just got a standard size 11 ring swivel. So the 360 rig got a bit of a bad rap in the early years, and that was largely due to mouth damage caused where someone might have picked up a fish in the landing net, not actually checked what was going on, and because there's quite a bit of metal work, the swivel or the hook got caught in the mesh, and that would sort of cause a tear in the mouth. So it's really important if you are going to use the 360 rig, and it's ideally a big fish rig, but if you are going to use the 360 rig, you need to make sure that you actually check that hook hold in the net. Ideally, you really want to unhook the carp in the water, or if you can't unhook it in the water, do make sure that you actually collapse your net down and just put that into a retainer. That way when you do lift the fish out of the water, there's absolutely no tension of your hook, which might be caught in the mesh, potentially causing any mouth damage. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look at the bits and pieces that you actually need to tie the rig. So first of all, you'll need to get yourself one of the Gemini Carp Tackle 360 booms. Now these come in three different lengths. You've got 9-inch, 7-inch and 5.5-inch, and that really comes down to personal preference. You get three of them in each of the packs, so you've basically got a ready setup that you just need to attach all your different components to make your rig, and you can set that up on all three rods. So alongside the tidy boom itself, you will need a heavily curved hook. Now I'll go over this in a little bit more detail. You can tie it with a standard curved pattern hook, but a more aggressively curved hook is going to be a lot more efficient, and it's also going to sit right. But like I say, I'll go into that a little bit more detail when I start constructing it. You'll then need two of the hook beads, and we're going to use these resist hook beads from Gemini Carp Tackle. They're a really nice little tungsten bead. And then you'll also need a way of attaching your hook bait as well, and I'm going to use one of their micro ring swivels. I've then also got my hook bait, which is a little pop-up. So first things first, all that you do is you actually just get the hook and hook it through the actual swivel eye on that size 11 ring swivel. You can see there, if I give the hook link a little bit of a twizzle, there's loads and loads of movement, not only around the barrel of the swivel, but also around the actual shank. And it's a huge amount of movement, huge amount of sort of 360-degree rotation, which gave the rig its name, but also makes it a super effective hooking rig. Now, you'll actually see here the reason why I say you need a very aggressively curved shank hook, and that's so that when you hold the hook and the pressure's on that hook, as you can see, the hook point is pulling in a straight line. So if you've got a not very curved hook, that's what you'd end up with, which isn't ideal, or you'd end up basically like that, which again isn't ideal either. So with these heavily curved pattern hooks, there's a few of them on the market, it'll sit absolutely perfect, meaning you can sit it just like a pop-up, sitting vertically upright like that, and also then when you've hooked a fish, it's pulling in a straight line, so you're not going to suffer from things like hook pulls. Now the first thing that you want to do is take a hook bead, and what you're going to do is pass that thin end first, and this is basically going to both act as a retainer for your actual swivel and also the micro ring swivel, or whatever sort of method that you've got of attaching hook bait, maybe a bait screw or something. So I position that roughly opposite the point, or even slightly lower down. And as you can see, that just stops the travel back that way. Next thing, you've got your version of hook bait mounting, which is the micro rig swivel here. And then finally, a second hook bead, which goes on the opposite way around, so fat end first. Just try and get that on without piercing it. There you go. And this, you want to position just at the top of the bend, so that if I hold the end of the micro ring swivel and the boom itself, it all sits in line together. Then that's pretty much the rig complete, and all that you need to do is attach your hook bait. And that's how simple it is to do. That's how simple the rig is to make. And if you catch a fish and the hook's blunt, all that you need to do is you just take all of those components, whip them off, put a new hook on, slide them all back on again. It really, really is simple changing hooks, and it's a really effective rig too. So there you go, I've mounted my hook bait, and as you can see, everything sits in line. It's really, really neat, and it'll just sit up like that with absolutely loads of movement. You can see it just spins and turns really, really quickly. You just got all of that freedom of movement so that hook can spin round and catch hold.